I mean, we can't lose. The object is to not lose.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Hey. Thanks for being here for this. Okay. How you doing this morning? Okay. So you do these, how do these work?
Each of them has different phrases. And
Oh, like more commonly used phrases, right. That's interesting. Morning.
Good morning.
I only have a couple
All
more.
rise for the Honorable Judge Sensei.
Court is in session. Please be seated. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, spectators. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This is the People's State of California versus Timothy Richard Heidecker, case number 02CF025. Mr. Heidecker.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning. Good morning, jury. I would like to call my first witness for the defense for the day is acclaimed cinema screenwriter and film director Nicholas Meyer.
Sir, would you please be sworn in?
Do you swear, under the penalty of perjury, to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Meyer.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine so far.
Any relation to Oscar?
I was once nominated for an Oscar
There
for
you
the
go.
screenplay I wrote for the 7% Solution.
Okay, well there we go. We have let's sort of a celebrity-filled occasion today. It's very exciting. Congratulations to you on the nomination. Just for the record, may you state your full name and spell your last name, please.
Nicholas Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. And Mr. Meyer, can you give the court and the jury here a little background? I know you've already mentioned the nomination of the Oscar, which is very exciting, but give us a little more background on your career.
I've written, directed a bunch of movies over the years, including some of the Star Trek films, The Day After, my anti-nuclear film.
Okay, I think that gives us a pretty good background. You mentioned Star Trek, the television show or the movies, or?
I co-wrote and directed Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I co-wrote and directed Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And I co-wrote but did not direct Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which was directed by Leonard Nimoy.
Okay, I would like to speak briefly about Star Trek IV, the subtitle of which you just said was...
I didn't.
I'm sorry, the title of Star Trek IV,
The
full
Voyage
title,
Home.
The Voyage Home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and As a screenwriter, you're pretty familiar with the story of that
Yes,
movie?
I'm pretty familiar with the story.
Yeah, I would hope so. When you say home in that title, what does home refer to?
Earth.
Okay, Earth. So the Star Trek gang is out in space, and their voyage in that episode, in that movie, is to Earth.
Yes.
Okay, and specifically though, is there a location in that film where
San Francisco. They go to San Francisco.
So I'm sorry. Can you repeat that because we had an outburst here? Where does the main plot of Star Trek IV take place?
The crew of the Enterprise returns to Earth seeking the help of humpback whales to answer a probe from outer space with a matching signal.
In Star Trek 2.
Mr. Tarkington, one warning and one warning only. One more outburst, and you will be dismissed from this courtroom.
Just trying to be accurate.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I don't see the relevance of Mr. Meyer's testimony as to the Star Trek movies.
The relevance is you brought this fraud here, Greg Turkington, as an expert witness,
Yes.
when his understanding, his basic understanding of movies is there is none. He doesn't seem to understand very fundamental aspects of film. May I ask you again, Mr. Meyer, where does the plot of Star Trek IV take place? What city?
San Francisco.
Thank you. In Star Trek II, you also directed and wrote Star Trek II.
Yes.
Does any of that movie take place in San Francisco?
Yes, there are actually a couple of scenes that are set in San Francisco. They weren't filmed there, but the Starfleet Academy, the simulator room, those were intended to be San Francisco, and Kirk's apartment overlooks San Francisco Bay. It's a set.
Hold on.
That's what I've been saying.
No.
Star
Mr.
Trek 2 is set in
Tarkington.
San Francisco.
Can we, I don't know, it's a kangaroo
But
court.
he's
Would you
backed
please
up. Star
assist
Trek
Mr.
2
Tarkington in finding the hallway?
Set in San Francisco. Star Trek 2.
Star Trek II is not set in San
He just said it
Francisco.
was set in, he directed it. And he said
Can you
it was
clarify your
Tarkington.
answer because you're being very vague,
He
sir.
said it was set
I'm being
in
vague?
San
No.
Francisco. Star Trek 2.
Star Trek II, the plot, you would not classify the plot of Star Trek II as being set in San Francisco.
No, what I said were that there were a couple of scenes in the movie that were set but not filmed in San Francisco.
If you were asked, a man on the street, which Star Trek movie takes place in San Francisco, your answer would be?
Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Meyer, when did you first meet the defendant, Tim Heidecker?
I met him this morning, but I got a call from him around 10:30 last night.
So you just met him today.
Correct.
And what did he say when he called you last night?
He asked me to appear here today as an expert witness.
And did he offer to pay you?
He did.
What did he offer to pay you?
$10,000.
I have no further questions.
I have a right to call expert witnesses and pay them whatever I want. Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer. This is unbelievably generous of you to come down here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. You are dismissed.
Okay.
That was pretty cool.
Your Honor, I move that the entire testimony of Mr. Myers be stricken by the record was totally irrelevant. Recall Mr. Turkington to the stand for purposes other than his views on the Star Trek movies.
Well, I request that the jury throw out all the testimony of Greg Turkington because obviously he's a liar and a rat and completely unqualified to discuss anything, especially movies.
Motion is overruled. The testimony will stand. No further argument is necessary on this point.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Heidecker, any further witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, I have one final witness, and I'll be resting my case.
Just one.
Yes, sir. I would
Very
like
good.
to call to the stand my brother from another mother, as we said earlier, the second half of the dynamic DKR duo, the one and only Manuel. Manuel? Sissy. What is it? How do you say your last name again? Sissy? Chussi, yeah. It's my brother. You'll be all right. All right, get up there.
Do you swear under the penalty of perjury to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Thank you, Manuel.
You're welcome.
First, would you please state your full name and spell your last name for
Yeah.
the court?
My name is Manuel Giusti, spelled Giusti.
Juicy.
Just
I love it. What is your relationship with the defendant? Me?
we are brother.
Mm-hmm.
We've been like in DKR for a long time. We've been touring together. We've been sharing a lot of things, and we're brother for life. Yeah.
And just to not create any mystery here, any sort of tomfoolery, you also were an actor in Decker, correct?
Yeah.
You played,
I play Manuel.
or
Like
you
the-
played Agent Kington.
Agent Kington
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
And also played yourself.
Yeah. I
as a
play
member of the
myself as
FAR.
Manuel, the guitar player of DKR, and Agent Kington in the yeah.
And you're a great singer, great guitar player.
Yeah. Guitar player. I really love what I do. I really love being DKR.
And how would you describe Mr. Heidecker? As a brother, as a friend, as a good guy?
He's a great guy. He's a loyal person, and I don't understand what this whole thing is all about. I mean, this sounds like a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is one thing that I know for sure that Tim could never do, and it's like do something bad to his fan. I mean, they mean the world to him. So I don't know what this thing is all about. Really, this sounds like a joke to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Giusti, it is not a joke. This is very serious.
Yeah, I know it's not.
Now, you told me something very shocking, I'll say. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may approach the witness.
This came as a big shock and a surprise to me because we've known each other a long time.
Yeah.
And we are brothers.
Yeah.
And we tell each other almost everything.
Yeah.
And this morning, you confided something in me, some secret that you've been holding in.
Yes. I met Dr. San the night he hanged himself.
Okay.
And
Sorry, just because the accent, we love the accent.
oh yeah.
But if I can just translate a bit,
Yeah.
and you can confirm. You'd met him before,
Yeah.
but you met with Mr. Sanchez, as you knew him to be, Dr. San. The night he hanged himself.
Your Honor,
Yes.
objection. The defendant's leading the witness.
I'm clarifying
Yes, I
his
did.
answer because we have a hard time hearing him because he didn't grow up here.
Sir, leave it
Mr.
up to the
Heidecker, I
judge.
didn't hear any of this in his answer the first time through.
Okay, I will ask you then to restate, and if you could speak as
Yeah.
clear as possible. Thank you.
I met Dr. San the night he killed himself.
Is that clear for everybody? Does everyone unclear about what they just heard? Okay, thank you. You met with him. You went to the prison.
Yeah.
What happened? You wanted to see how he was doing.
Yeah. I wanted to check on him, how he's doing. I knew he was in prison, so.
And what happened when you met with him?
Well, we talked for a little bit, and then he handed me a letter.
He handed you a letter.
Yes, he did.
And let me just state this. This is news to me. I think it's news to everybody here. Because you told me this when?
No.
This morning, yeah. This morning.
This morning.
And Mr. Juicy, do you have this letter with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Any reason why you waited this long to sort of expose this this bombshell?
Not really. It's just this. I mean, I just got it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have the letter with you.
Yes.
This was a letter written, I would say, hours before Mr. Sanchez took his own life.
Yes, I assume so.
Fair to call it a suicide note or a final message to the world?
Objection, Your Honor. We have no way of authenticating this letter.
Believe me, it's...
And Mr. Heidecker, we have no foundation for the timing of the writing of the letter.
Fair enough. We'll have to leave it up to the sworn testimony of our witness here. He witnessed the writing of the letter. He witnessed the handing off of the letter.
He gave me the letter.
Thank you. Can we please the court, Mr. Juicy, read, can we show the letter? Just, I mean, if I can touch the letter, I'll touch.
Your Honor,
Okay.
he's showing off.
Am I not allowed to show off evidence? Would you mind, since you're the one that received the letter, I think it should be you who reads it.
Yeah. I, Dr. Sen, am only one responsible for all the death from the Electric Sun 20. It is all my fault. Tim Heidecker is innocent and is too busy writing and producing its song with the Decker and DKR, as well as its show Decker. Signed, Dr. Sen.
Signed, Dr. Sen. Thank you. And I'd like to place this in evidence.
Objections?
Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to object to this. We want everything stricken from the record. There's been no foundation, no authentication. We haven't been presented the evidence prior to this proceeding this morning. There's ample ground to deny admitting the letter into evidence.
I think before I rule on that motion, I would like to hear some cross-examination of the witness.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you want to? Should we? You want to hold it? It was written by him. In that case, I think the letter speaks for itself. I think your testimony speaks for itself. I thank you for your courage.
You're welcome.
And I honor you for having the bravery to come out here and finally tell. I know sometimes it takes a while to let the truth rise to the top, and you've really shown yourself to be a stand-up guy.
Anytime.
And I understand why Dr. Mr. Sanchez confided in you with this secret, and I'm glad the truth has finally come out.
Okay, Mr. Heidecker,
Okay,
I've
thank
given you
I have no
wide
further-
latitude on the editorializing. Please wrap this up.
I have no further questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Juicy.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Your accent, I assume you're Italian?
Yes.
And I also assume you're Roman Catholic?
Yes.
Okay. Do
Objection.
you consider yourself to be a...
Objection. Witness's religion has nothing to do with his testimony.
Overruled.
Thank you.
Do you consider yourself to be a devout Roman Catholic?
Yes.
I have one question for you. Who wrote the letter? I want to remind you that a few minutes ago, you took an oath and you swore before God that you would tell the truth. I'm going to ask you now one more time. Who wrote the letter? Please answer the question, sir.
Tim gave it to me this morning.
Okay.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Needless to say, the motion to exclude is granted. The jury will disregard this letter. They will disregard this witness's testimony in its entirety. Sir, you're excused. Mr. Heidecker, the court is running out of contempt citation forms. But trust me, they are coming.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Do you have any further witnesses, evidence of any kind to present to this courtroom other than your own oration?
no, Your Honor. At this time, the defense rests. Thank you for that. And thank you for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your service. I don't believe that's been said nearly enough during these proceedings. Both the people and the defense have presented their evidence. At this point, both the people and the defense are entitled to give you closing arguments. I will remind you that statements made by counsel are not evidence. That seems particularly appropriate admonition for me to make in this case. The prosecution, the people, will first present their closing argument, and then the defense. Mr. Rossetti, are the people ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
The Electric 20. Kids from our community who were killed by this individual. In my 30 years as a prosecutor for San Bernardino County, I have never seen such a heinous crime and such a tragedy. My heart bleeds for these people. Excuse me, but I can't help myself. You've been patient, you've been attentive, and you've been honest to listen to the overwhelming evidence, much of it technical in nature, pertaining to this music festival. Now, you have to do your job. I told you at the beginning of this trial that I would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this man is a killer, and he is. But now you have to decide. Justice is in your hands. You have to decide if this tragedy, which not only affected our community, but affected communities nationwide, should receive retribution. I'm not going to be overly technical in my rehash of the evidence you've heard. You've heard enough. You've been here for 6 days. I think that's enough. But I will touch on a few relevant facts. Mr. Heidecker, along with his co-conspirator, Luther Sanchez, Dr. San. What a joke. Didn't even have a medical degree, no medical background whatsoever. Conspired with this individual to manufacture, market, and produce these vape pens, which the medical examiner of San Bernardino County testified contain toxic chemicals. Chemicals that were found in the body of not one, not two, not three, not four, but all of these kids. So what are we going to do about it? Vape pens that were sold by TGH Vape Systems, Inc. It wasn't even registered as a corporation in the state of California. We showed you a list of companies, shells and LLCs and S corporations and the like. They weren't even registered. But they were all owned and controlled by the defendant, Timothy Heidecker. as fraudulent as this music festival, where various individuals testified that they had attended and they didn't receive the goods or the services that they were promised when they made their purchases. So devastating was this tragedy that someone of questionable moral character, Dr. Sand, committed suicide. He hung himself. Unwilling to face criminal charges himself. Tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. It's heartbreaking, really. And one of the most heartbreaking things is Mr. Heidecker's own son, Tom Cruise Heidecker, of the Tom Cruise Heidecker Fund, may have also died at the hands of Dr. Sand. I have never heard or seen such criminal culpability as I've seen in this case. So what do we do? It's going to take each and every one of you to decide in good conscience if this man is guilty. Because if he is found guilty, he will go to prison for a long time. But he'll still be alive. Those kids, they're not alive. Their mothers and fathers and loved ones, they will never get these children back. And the victims, the other 137 people who attended the festival, they'll never have normal lives. So I'm going to ask you now. I'm going to implore you. Please, see that justice is done. Convict this individual. And God will smile upon you. I thank you for your time.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Rossetti. Mr. Heidecker, do you have a closing statement to make?
Oh, yes, I do, Your Honor. I don't know how I'm going to follow Mr. Rossetti's beautiful performance there. Too bad Mr. Meyer wasn't here. You might cast him in one of his movies.
It's enough, Mr. Heidecker.
Thank you. Let me begin just by thanking you, Judge Sismic, for your patience and your unbelievable leadership here in the courtroom, and to you, the jury. I mean, this has been what a week, and you've been so patient. I know if I was you, I'd be itching to get out of here, and you've been just. I could tell you guys have it up here more than most, and it's been an honor to get to see you every day. Quick note. I'm not a guy that likes to lay blame quickly and haphazardly. I do want to just say I've been a couple days here this week. I brought in a can of Sprite, and the reason I did that was I'm trying not to drink coffee, and I thought that the Sprite would give me a little pep, a little caffeine. And on the fourth day or something, somebody says, "Hey, you know the Sprite's caffeine free." So that didn't work, and so if you saw me sort of nodding off or anything, I should have gone with Coke, which has caffeine. All right, let's get into this. Well, there's a lot to cover. We've heard a lot from the prosecution. And when we come down to it, I just want to let this sit with you. I am an innocent man. I've been framed by this prosecutor. I don't know why, but let's see if we can figure it out. I'm going to use this board, if you don't mind. We'll just walk through it. Because it's a little like going back to school, isn't it? This whole experience. How's this? Can everybody see this? So what happened on the night of April 14th? First of all, we have a lot of conflicting information. There's so much information, right? For instance, we had, what was the kid who died of heroin? We have heroin in the blood of one of our, is he still in here? No. We had some people out of that 20 who didn't even die from the vape pen. So that opens the question, did anybody die from the vape pen? That's sort of our first question mark, and we'll just put question marks here. Was it heroin? Was that was the evidence tainted by the prosecution? Was there meddling? Those questions haven't been asked, and they haven't been addressed. Secondly, so that's one. We have, put that up here, the China connection. And let's just remember, I'm not here to answer these questions. Okay? I don't know what happened. That's not my duty. That's not my responsibility. That's the state's. That's the prosecutor here. That's their job. They don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. They are the ones responsible for answering these questions. They're not asking the question, what is the China connection? What connects these chemicals from Shanghai, from K2? What misleading information were they provide? Did they provide? Were they connected here? Okay. We have testimony from the night of the festival. Orion Jacks. Number 3. One of the star performers who is sworn testimony confirms that I don't have his testimony in front of me right here, but the gist of the confession is he had a good time. Okay. And now, so he creates more questions. Where was he on the night? Is there anything connecting here? I don't know. We don't know where he was. We don't have record of that. He didn't testify to that. These are questions that the state has failed to ask. You guys pay taxes. I pay taxes. Judge pays taxes. We're paying these people. And yet they throw their net out and they bring in the first fish they catch. And that happened to be me, unfortunately. But there's more to this. We have, I'm calling him Dr. Sand, because he'll always be Dr. Sand to me, despite the news. So this is number 4. We have Dr. Sand's confession. Why does a person kill themselves, right? A lot of people are depressed. A lot of people have bad relationships, and they just feel like there's no point. But some people kill themselves because they know they did something so wrong that they can't live with themselves. And that's the case of Dr. Sand. And we have his letter, which is up for dispute. That's for you guys. You guys are smart. You can figure it out. Some people think my friend Manuel made it up. I don't. I happen to believe my friend. And he's never lied to me before. I believe that letter to be genuine. The state's going to try to muddy that. They're going to say that you can't look at it, but you can. You can remember, because I showed it to you, and you saw it. That was a letter from Dr. Sand. And he said that I didn't do anything wrong. So that's for you to decide. But and I'm happy you're deciding that, because I'd rather have you guys in the driver's seat than these rats here, and they're liars. And I don't know what I did to them. I don't know what I did to them that they're so upset with me. We have Star Trek 2, and I'll say 4. We have the testimony of one of the great directors of all time. He's up there with Hitchcock and the rest, directing Star Trek II, confirming that the testimony of Mr. Turkington was nothing but a bunch of baloney, that Mr. Turkington has no expertise, so anything he says in this courtroom, and he said a lot, should be thrown out with the baby with the don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But in this case, his testimony was junk. So when he said something, you have to throw it out. So we don't listen to Mr. Turkington. He is a rat, and also just not informed about film. And we have character. We have character. Joe. Axe. And to some degree, Manuel. These are the people in my life who know me, who told you the true story. He doesn't know me. She doesn't know me. He doesn't know me. These people know me. They know that, well, this isn't connected. This is a whole other thing. But these connections make sense because he's the one that had the connection with the CS labs. What was the chemical solutions? That's Sand doing that crap, calling those places and getting the orders together for that. So then we have down here, I'll just make this lucky number 7. Tim. Who is the defendant? He is an artist, a poet, a rock musician, an actor, writer, producer, festival organizer, entrepreneur. Proud of those companies, by the way. I'm not denying that I have any relationship with those companies. He wants me to cower and hide in a corner and say I have nothing to do with great companies like Six Pack Cinemas and the On Cinema franchise. These are companies I built with my blood and my sweat, and so I'm proud of them. I'm not shirking away from that. But what is my relationship to the events of that night? I was playing music, something I love. You know, we already have testimony that it was being played all night. Empty bottle, empty bottle, empty bottle, empty bottle, empty bottle. #1 download. As a festival organizer, you see me, I'm there setting things up. I'm getting the stage set up, getting the PA plugged in, getting the lights together, talking to vendors. And then the crowd comes in, and I do what I do best. I hit the stage, I get behind the tops, I start spinning, I get the beats going. I'm playing an Empty Bottle, the Empty Bottle remix, 2.0 remix. And I'm ripping it. I'm a performer, an artist, up on stage doing what he does best. Nowhere near the vape tent, nowhere near what Dr. Sam was cooking up. I was just a man at the scene of the crime. I was just a man at the scene of the crime. A little bit like Mark Pryor. Who was there? Just a man at the scene of the crime. Is Mark Pryor on trial? What about Tyler Haldred? Huh? Does he belong up here? If he was alive? What about Valerie Davis? We saw her mother. She came in here telling her sob story. Does she belong? Is she to be blamed for the activities of this? What happened here? What happened at the festival? I'm just a man at the scene of a crime. The case of Valerie Davis. It's unfortunate. But she's not guilty. Why? If we had a headshot of me, I'd be right here. I'd be filling in, oh, what's his name? The junkie. And let's just remember, let's take a step back. Let's remember Chris. Chris Delgado. Chris Delgado came up to me. I told this story in my opening statement. I'm going to tell it again. Chris Delgado came up to me before the festival began and said, if anything should happen to me at the festival, I don't know what it would be. Who knows? Heat, anything. Violence, knives. There's a lot of violence at these festivals, Judge. Almost like he comes up. I said, hey, can I help you? He says, I just want to thank you for throwing this festival, and if anything should happen to me, I can tell by the way you're behaving today, by the way you've handled things so far, is that it could never have been you. And that's sworn testimony. That's from my memory. I'm on the record now. And he said, but if something does happen to me, I want you to use my memory to do something good, do something positive. And that's, like I said, I want to start the Electric Sun 20 Music Foundation. Okay? Or we could call it the Delgado Fund. Because he represents everybody here. And like I said, what we would do with that foundation is we would provide grants and loans and funding for budding musicians, kids like Chris who have music in their heart, who could use a $50, $100 gift certificate to Guitar Center so they can get the latest software or keyboard, MIDI keyboards. Maybe some of these kids wouldn't have gone down that trail with Dr. Sand had they had music in their lives, had they had financial opportunities to produce and mix. And maybe they'd be up on the stage with me and Ryan Jacks and DJ Stomp. Up until now, my accounts have been frozen. My life has been ruined as I await this trial. It's taken forever for this district attorney to get his S together to get us here today. And now it's been a positive experience for me because I'm looking forward to get it behind me so we can get to work, get to do the real work of giving back. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so humbled to be able to present my case to you, and I'm confident that you'll make the right choice. Find me innocent on all accounts. Let me get back to doing the good work that I've been put on this planet to do by God. And one more time for Judge Zizmic, and the court and the bailiff and everybody. Just done an unbelievable job today and this week. No thanks to these two. You've been nothing but trouble. But we do respect your service. And anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heidecker. People wish to offer a rebuttal.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this point, you've heard the testimony, the evidence from both sides. You've heard closing arguments from both sides. This case is now in your hands. Let me remind you, the burden is on the prosecution, on the people, to prove every element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt.
That was one thing I wanted to add.
Mr.
Sorry.
Heidecker,
I'm sorry, but
Mr. Heidecker, you're done.
Thank you.
The burden is on the people to prove every element of the offense charged beyond a reasonable doubt. It is not the responsibility of the defense to prove innocence. It is merely the responsibility of the defense to raise a reasonable doubt about one or more elements of the offense. To remind you, Mr. Heidecker has been charged with 20 counts of second-degree felony murder. The burden that was on the prosecution was to prove that, number one, the defendant committed or was part of a conspiracy to aid and abet an inherently dangerous felony. Element number two, the defendant or the perpetrator, the co-conspirator, committed said inherently dangerous felony. Number three, the defendant or the perpetrator did an act that caused the death of another person. That's the third element. And number four, the act causing the death was part of one continuous transaction. If you find that the people have proved each of these elements beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must deliver a verdict of guilty. If you find that the people have not proven one or more of these elements beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must return a verdict of not guilty. You'll be excused now to the jury room. The clerk will be outside. You may ask to hear any testimony read back to you, see any physical evidence. I instruct you that your first task is to elect a foreperson. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do you have any questions? No. Hearing none, I will now excuse you to the jury room. We are in recess.